Hi guys, welcome to this tutorial on how to work with the Portal Gable Frame command in Autodesk Advanced Steel. On the Home tab, under the Extended Modeling panel, we have a command called Portal Gable Frame. So this inserts a structure into the 3D model, so if I click it, it asks me for a base point of the first column. So I've got a sample grid structure already added in my model, and I'm going to pick the position of C1 on my grid as my first base point for my first column. You'll see the command line now changes and says select the top point for the second column, and I'm going to pick C3. It then asks you to please enter the height of the apex or angle, so I'm just going to click enter to that, and it will automatically add a portal frame to my building and show the portal frame dialog box. So you can see that it has a portal frame option. We can also make that a gable frame, and the difference between the portal and the gable frame is that I can add intermediate columns between the two. So the first thing we can do is change it to a portal or a gable frame. So in this instance I'm going to add a portal frame, and then we can check the second tab, which is the setout. So here we have a series of values where we can actually specify the geometry of the frame. The first one is a symmetrical roof option. If that's ticked off, it activates the rest of the dialog box where we can have two independent rafter configurations. So if I click that on, both sides of the roof will be the same. You'll see that the span of the frame is defined by the 2 points that I've chosen, so that's along grid line C. The total height is the height from the base of the column to the top of the apex, and then we have an eaves level. So this value, eaves level, is the height. So if I change that value, click enter, it will adjust the portal frame in the model. But what you can also do is that you can manually specify the pitch of the roof. So you can see that if I set the eaves level, let's say to 5 meters, click enter, and then I enter the roof slope of 15, you will see it will set the portal frame out. So 5 meters to the top of the column, and then a 15-degree pitch. So sometimes that's better, rather than specifying a total height and then an eaves height, it will work out that dimension. I tend to go with that distance where I set the eaves height of, let's say, 5 meters, click enter, and then specify that height. If you want to go to total height, we can then adjust it like that, and you can see, so 5 meters eaves height and then a 15-degree pitch gives me 6339.7. You can change it to a percent, so you can change it and you can work it out by percentage, but I'm going to keep it on a degree. The level of the base plate value allows me to put a little upstand on the bottom if I wish, but again I'm going to leave mine at 0. So that's how we can set it out. If you wanted the non-symmetrical, you can change this value. Let's say here, if we change that to 3 meters, you can see that it adjusts the distance to the apex value. So if we set that back to 5 meters, we can adjust it back, so everything is now symmetrical both sides. Then we can go into the sections tab, and this will allow you to create and specify the type of section. So the first, you have a little tick box at the top called columns are equal. If that's ticked off, you can then specify a different column on section 1 of the portal and then section 2. If it's on, you will see column 2 size is grayed out, and then we can specify the distance. So onto the column size, you can pick your various different types. So I'm in the UK, so I'm going to go with a standard UB. I'm going to go with a 305 102, and you'll see that will update the column sections. If we look at the rafter, again I can go to a UB, just maybe take it down a size to 254 106, and you'll see that the screen automatically updates and changes. And then the final tab is a thing called position of the frame, and you can see that as default the columns and rafters will all be put in on what we call the system line. So it's usually in the middle and the inner position, but we can change it to the left, and you can see that the position of the column moves to the left, and we can go to the top or to the bottom, so we can position our column on the inside of the grid line, but again I'm going to leave it all on standard grid line segments. So that puts in our standard portal frame. We can then just close down the dialog box, and there we are good to go with our standard portal frame. So just to finish this tutorial, I'm going to copy the portal frame down to each position. So you could use an AutoCAD copy, but I'm going to use you can use the advanced steel copy, but if we look at the tools option, and in there we have a thing called transform elements. What this allows me to do is use a dialog box to actually pick all the elements to transform. So I can go select objects, I can select the columns and the joint box, and you'll see that you have a little button up the top left called include additional connectors. And what that will do is if there is connections added to your portal frame, they will also get included. And when you go into this, you can click an array of different types of commands. You can copy, array, mirror, align, move. So if I click the copy command, it allows me to specify the number of copies. So if I say there's 4 copies in the X direction, let's say of 5 meters, and if I go preview, you see the way it will show me a preview what it's copying. And in this instance, I've added in an extra copy, so I go to modify, and if I change that to 3, so that's 1, 2, 3 copies. If we then preview that, you will see that it will copy the portal frames across. And the reason I want to show you that is because that little additional connector, if there was a base plate added, so if I turn on the connection vault and I add in a standard base plate to the bottom of my column, no to additional concrete, it will add a generic base plate to the bottom of my column. And what the additional connectors will do within transform elements, so transform elements of the tools tab allows me to select my objects. So I select my 4 components and I select my joint box. I include additional connectors. Then when I preview it, you will see that the base plate is also copied. So just to finish this tutorial, I'm not going to add any connections in, just going to go straight to transform elements, select my objects, 3 number copies in the X direction, and we click OK. So there we have it, pretty simple, easy to use portal frame command, and we've just finished it off with transforming the elements. So join me again soon for another tutorial using Autodesk Advanced Steel.